Hello, my name is Melissa Thill. Thank you for watching our video series regarding the fight for a Texas historical marker for the lynching of George Hughes in the Sherman Riot of 1930. On May 9, 1930, George Hughes was accused of sexually assaulting a white woman. He was brought here to the Grayson County Courthouse, but he would never have his day in court. A mob of about 5,000 people gathered at the courthouse. They broke in, they burned the courthouse to the ground with George Hughes locked in a vault. After the courthouse burned, they retrieved Hughes's body, they tied him to the back of a car, and they drug him to Mulberry Street, where the Black Business District was located. George Hughes was hung from a tree, he was mutilated and burned, and then the Black Business District was destroyed. In Sherman, Texas, there was martial law declared for 2 weeks. This was one of the largest race riots of the 1930s, and yet there is no mention or recognition of this historical but tragic event at the courthouse. Right now we have 8 Texas historical markers located at this very courthouse, but nothing to commemorate or recognize what happened to George Hughes and the destruction of the Black Business District. We hope you enjoy this video series. Stay tuned at the end for how you can help and for more information.
This happened, speaking of that, was kind of funny because my wife was looking through our old church records, and I was doing something in here, working on something, and she turns to me and she says, "Hun, is there any reason that a priest would remove a record from the parish register?" And I said, "No, I'm pretty sure if I did that, the bishop would have my head. I'm not sure what canon that violates, but I'm sure it's one of them. So, no, what in the world happened?" And she showed me the old parish register from the 1930s. And in it is very clearly a whole record has been cut out with scissors or something. It looks like there was a record there because between the book you can see a little bit of pencil marked, but the rest of the record for this date has been removed. Now we had just moved to Sherman. We didn't didn't know the full history of the town, but it was pretty obvious about the time that this record would have been removed. See, on the parish, on this worship register, what usually happens is we use it for recording our worship services. So we have a service on Sunday, we put the date and the type of service and then how many people attended. And there's a space for notes. And sometimes a priest might mark, well, it was extra rainy or snowy that day or whatever. But the Father Laughlin, who was the priest at the time, he had a habit of writing a little bit more copious notes, it seemed. And so he would write, something. We don't know what he wrote on this record, but he had a habit of writing things. So on this date, when you look at the date before when this is cut off and the date after it's cut off, it's, somewhere in May 1930. So we looked up Sherman, May 1930, and lo and behold, we found lots of records online to the courthouse fire and riot. Obviously, we don't know what he wrote, but it's interesting that a few, just down later on that page, it's obvious that there was something here related to that because he makes another note that he had invited a minister down from New York to preach on the lynching. We actually have the text that says that in that record. And he wrote that in there. So we think that it was probably related to that. And then if you keep looking on the next several records, you see that he mentions things about people not showing up to church or not getting involved, or the attendance is, I think one of the days, Sundays was 0. And then eventually he writes in there, an illegal vestry meeting reduced my salary to $1, and he left. He eventually ended up in Oklahoma and died young. One little weird part too is that he and his wife are both from Western North Carolina, where I'm from. So they're kind of like family, I suppose, in a certain way. But we don't know what he wrote down. I don't know if he named names, if he knew what happened. I'm not sure, but some record was removed. He obviously had preached against the riot and the lynching on some level, and it looks like there was a backlash from that. The other interesting thing is that then I went to go check our vestry records, and I cannot find the vestry records from that date. We have vestry records that go back to the early 1900s. We have plenty of them afterwards. We have vestry records kind of before and after, but the folder that would have the 1930 year in it is completely missing. So I'm not sure, but there was he must have written down something that somebody did not want to know, and so they removed it. I'm guessing probably after he left. And there we are.
So this that we have right here
Right. So
is the actual.
yes. So let me open up. You can see.
And
Right
these dates
here.
over here are all April,
Yes.
and they go to the end of April and the beginning of May.
Yes, and then right here, so April and then May, right? May 1, May 4, May 4, and then May 11. And between May 4 and May 11 has been cut off. And you can see something was written here. There was a record here because you can see the pencil mark right there. And then, on this other side. As you can tell, he definitely wrote notes. He liked to write notes in here. So later, after this record is removed, we have, let's see, where was this?
This reminds me of like a captain's log in a sailing vessel.
Yeah, yeah, kind of is.
Meticulous and dates and times.
Yes. Oh, well, sorry, I went right by it. Right here, on May 11th, not too long after, Reverend Russell Ludlow of somewhere in New York preached on local happenings of lynching of Negro, right there in writing. So he invited a guest preacher from New York to come preach at him afterwards. And then you can see, after this happens, we start having, where was that? Oh, let's see. He sends a special letter sent to all communicants pleading 100% attendance, no results. Most of all congregation left before communion. Right? And so then eventually an illegal vestry meeting on June 1, rector's salary cut to $1, regular meeting postponed by senior warden from 1st to 2nd. And that's it. And then at that point, he eventually is out of town. And as near as I can trace, I found him, his grave is up in Oklahoma. That's all I have found.
We'd like to thank Father Wesley Evans for speaking to us today about the institutional censorship of this history of the Sherman Riot of 1930 and the lynching of George Hughes. 91 years later, there is still censorship of this history coming from our county judge and our commissioners. At the end of this video, you will see a list of the county judge and the commissioner's email address and contact information. Contact them to support this historical marker. Thank you.